question. Um, I got a job here. Good morning,
Oh,
Michael.
cool.
Yeah, I was working in New York
Mm.
Hello,
for many
hello.
years.
Good
Hi.
morning.
Morning.
Hi there.
Yeah, I got a call from a recruiter and asked if I'd be interested in interviewing for a job in Portland. So my
Okay.
husband, who's born and raised New Yorker, had to look on the map to find where Portland was. He's like, is that by, like Seattle or where is that? So yeah, we decided to make the move and we moved out here. It's been many years. Our daughter was 2. So
Oh,
This is
she's
your
now 20.
backstory?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm listening
This
to
is well
that story.
how I ended up in Portland.
Mm.
Yeah. So, but my husband's born and raised New Yorker, so we're there all the time. His siblings are there. I go back to the city all the time. So back and forth.
Hmm.
And that's also
Yeah.
one, I mean, there's also New York Fashion Week, but is that another reason why you built the bridge of just creating opportunities for yourself to come back? Or you knew you'd be here, so you
Yeah.
well built relationship.
Well, so after I worked in Portland for a while, I decided to go freelance and started consulting. And my first clients were my old colleagues back in New York. So I was actually working with New York fashion brands, even when I lived here. And so I'd fly back and forth all the time for meetings. And then we go to sales meetings in, Minneapolis. And so I just kind of kept going back and forth, and some of my best friends are there from my early career days, and we still keep in touch. And so I go visit them. And yeah, I was with one of my friends in February when I was there, and we realized we've known each other for 30 years. So, so
You,
yeah, a
you
lot of history there.
you're touching on something that, here we are speaking with Flora, who's at the start of her career, right? I mean, you're
Yeah.
still early on in your
Yeah.
career. And I realized in talking to Siamanda, for example, who's been here for 25 years, that she gains new partners, new opportunities because she's planted these seeds over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah. It
Speak of the
takes
devil.
time.
We were
Yeah,
just
good
talking
morning.
about you, Siamanda, because Brita was explaining how she's known people here in New York for 30 years. And so some of your opportunities come about because of people you've known for so many years. But
Yeah.
for Flora, I don't know, it may be a little trickier. There you are in Dublin. I don't know how long you
Yeah.
have to stay in Dublin, but I've lived in different places where I realize that I now suffer from not having those kinds of roots in one
Yeah.
place where then my friends and colleagues would also be high level professionals who then, hey, Michael, we need you for this, we need you for that, so the benefit of those kinds of not just connections but relationships, what the Chinese call guanxi, you know how important a relationship,
Yeah.
right?
I would say
Mhm.
one advice that I can give is maintain those relationships. Even if you don't, like one of my friends, I didn't see her for 10 years because she was living in Korea. But we kept in touch, and now she came back to New York because she has children. She wants to go to school there. And we've rekindled our friendship, and yeah, I'm lucky because I'm from the Midwest originally, so I go back to Minneapolis all the time and I have family there. So I started building industry connections in the Midwest. I have my East Coast connections and then my West Coast now, since I'm West Coast, obviously, for the last many years. So yeah, it's super important if you can make those connections and just keep in touch, and it builds your just your network with good people. So it's helped
Yeah.
me a ton. So yeah, and I can go back and visit my old office and coworkers, and they're still working on Seventh Avenue, and so it keeps me in touch and aware of what's happening there to some extent. So, yeah, you have a whole future ahead of you, Laura.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very difficult for me to build some relationships here. Yeah, because I've
Why is
been
that?
staying
Yeah.
here for 1 year and a half. I came here since 2023 September, start my bachelor's degree.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
haven't been there too long, and I imagine culturally it's so different, that it's
Yeah, I'm still
more
get used
challenging.
to this place because this is my first time to study in a English speaking country.
Mm,
Yeah, and I was very scary last year
I'm
because
sure.
yeah, when I landed here, I was like, everybody is really speaking English, which is so scary.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
there's an
different world.
accent. Their
Yeah, yeah,
accent
Irish
is
accent.
thick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even as an English speaking person, I find if I'm talking to an Irish or Scottish person, sometimes I can't like, and they just have their own, slang and whatnot. And
Yeah.
like, well, can you repeat that? Well, kudos to you for being brave and diving in and going for it.
Yeah.
Well,
And one day you'll look back and you'll be so proud of yourself and thrilled that you did it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
well, so here we are. I'm enjoying the storytelling here, but it's 11:06 New York time. Should we wait a couple more minutes, Brita, to see if anyone else will join us, or should we dive right into the content?
Yeah, I'm not sure about a couple of them that we're gonna like I thought Anna was coming back, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not
So
sure.
we could why don't we start with who we have, and if they jump
Yeah.
in, then we can,
How
they'll
about
catch
Preet?
up. Yeah.
Will Preet be joining us?
I thought she would. So hopefully she'll pop in soon.
Okay. I mean, the beautiful part is that, of course, they can watch the video if they're so inclined, and then we can still arrange a one-on-one for with me, that I'm speaking with them one-on-one and guiding them through the process because we will ensure that people produce content from this, right?
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
okay, then let's begin. See, Amanda, were you able to do a bit of homework on your end? Busy up in Montreal?
I kind of did a little bit. I definitely need a. It's been a long time since I've been back to school, so I don't know, I need time for homework. I
Well,
need time for
I,
um.
I I have a hunch you'll get a pretty good grade from this course anyway. Okay. So anyway, moving right along. How about we I mean, look, even Simon is still, nevertheless, I'm gonna walk you through the process because I also want Flora and Brita and others to benefit. I'll do a quick, I'll open with a reminder, okay, a refresher of some of the highlights from yesterday. I'll share a few more storytelling skills and strategies, and then we'll dive into the writing of the story. Okay.
Okay.
Sounds
Mhm.
So
good.
yeah. Oh, first of all, I should ask, were there any questions from yesterday's event following up, that maybe Flora, did you have any burning questions after the workshop, or Brita or Siamanda, anything like that?
I mean, for me, it was really helpful just to have that one type of story. Like I mentioned yesterday, looking at all those options, is I wanted to do all of them, but the narrowing it down to one that was most important to me was really helpful, and I just focused on that. And so I didn't have any questions that came up. I found lots of information online and was able to pull together some the points that you suggested for your origin story. So for me, it
Good.
went okay. And yeah, it's just the actual writing that,
In
you
in
know.
in the chat, and of course we'll talk about the writing today. In the chat, I just put a link to Imade's story because I did lead her step by step to write her story. In fact, I polished it as well. I was her copy editor as well, okay, to make sure it was in the best possible condition. But I had one thought about, for example, Siamanda you had the question, well, should I start with my origin story or my impact story? Okay. And then in reviewing and preparing for today's session, one of my skills that I share, and you'll see one of the tiles is going to the front lines. Going to the front lines, I use this military term The front lines is where the two militaries will face off against each other. They can see the whites in each other's eyes up close. But I talk about the front lines of a story. Okay, that's important to really, for effective storytelling, the idea of going to where exactly the story is happening so you can even describe with some detail, right? As if you're taking a photo there, but then you can describe. So, see, Amanda, you said, oh, you'd like to tell an impact story, let's say about Cecilia. Well, I would hold off until either you can be face to face with Cecilia and drawing it out of her, or at least on a call, a Zoom call. So then, to draw out that story. For now, I like the idea that let's start with your foundational origin story, your story of inspiration, motivation. We'll get to that. Okay, but you see what I mean about the idea of going to the front lines to bring it to life, what's really going on in the field. Okay.
Hey, Michael, the
Yes.
link I have is to the Tech Africa story.
Yes.
Is
That's
that the correct?
yeah.
Okay.
It's the Tech Africa website, and then Imade's her origin
Oh,
story
sorry.
as an
Okay,
example.
gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
So here, let's turn to the PowerPoint. Okay, just as a refresher. Okay, reminding ourselves that the idea is, and part of the process is that whenever we're thinking about our own short-term, long-term objectives. Okay, what do I want to achieve and why? Okay, because if we're going to be investing any time and effort into creating content, we should also justify it for ourselves. We're all very busy. Okay, and if we just say, hey, I need to create content, yeah, but why? I'm not sure why. I feel the need. It's been a while. No, but let's think through so it even motivates us and we have a nice clear focus as to here's why exactly I'm creating this piece of content. So it satisfies some short-term need or objective, some long-term need or objective or challenge, right? And then the next step is, all right, this is what I want to do and why, but who exactly is my target audience? Who, right? So if the idea is, let's say Siamanda says, hey, I'll be meeting with a potential investor or partner next week, right? And sure, I'll be telling them I'll also want to explain my story. So you know what? If I'm going to be doing that, let me create it in text so I have it there, okay, now and for the future. But also then it'll be fresh in my mind, almost like rehearsing it before you pitch it. So then you're thinking through, okay, they will be my target audience. And what will this investor or partner know about me? What won't they know about me? From what they will know about me, why will they know that? What do I want them to know about me and why? Okay. So then we'll get to the core messages of what we want them to know and why we want them to know that about us. And then how to bring that to life. Okay. We'll soon use Siamanda as a case study, but it's a nice small group so we can get to each of you today with the critique. Okay. And then, as I said, here with the strategic storytelling. So now we have in mind who exactly our audience is and why they're our audience. And then from the who comes the what, why, how. That's my 4-step method, which is then what exactly do we want to say to that target audience? Okay. Why exactly do we want to say that? Like, why do we feel that that would be the most effective, most persuasive, most impactful thing? And then we also justify that with here, actually, hold on. I should go to I should then go to my 4-step formula as a reminder. Okay. It's all written down here. Okay. The who, the what, so what exactly, then the why exactly, and there's a filter. Okay, if you were to say, Michael, how can I figure out why I want to say this? Okay, then here's that one sentence filter is, I want to say XYZ to this target audience, comma, because, okay, or my target audience, when I tell XYZ, no, when I tell my target audience XYZ about myself or about my brand, It will resonate with them. It will push the right button with them, comma, because, all right, so this is where the empathy comes through, that we're trying to imagine why exactly our words would hit the targets. All right, we do the best we can in terms of imagining, is this the most effective way to introduce myself, to describe my product, to pitch ourselves as a trustworthy partner? We're thinking through the impact of our words. This is high level strategic communications. Okay, this is where, and frankly, for Flora, for example, this is also how we become better writers in general. Okay, that then when we write, then we start to justify every word, every sentence, every paragraph. And I'll explain that later too, when I talk about it's a question of relevance. Why include this word, this sentence, this paragraph? And then we can say that paragraph is in there because my reader, my audience needs to know this detail because. Okay, and that's how we become better writers, communicators, storytellers, and all that, where suddenly everything is justified and defensible about what we're saying. That's the highest level writing, I think. Okay, it's hard to do. I'm not saying I've mastered that, but I've been thinking about these challenges for 30 years. Okay, producing my own content, but also working with editors who have demanded that I aspire to achieve that level of writing. Okay, so we had the filter, and then once we've made a justified argument for here's what I want to say and here's why I want to say it, then it's like, okay, now how do I want to say it? With which facts, which details, which bits of evidence, which photos, which anecdotes about people I've met along the way or people I've impacted. Okay, as you see. Okay, then it's like, all right, how do I bring it to light even visually? Okay, so we're going to do some of that today. Okay, but then zipping back up to just to keep in mind what we're doing with all our contents today. It's not just any content, but strategic content or strategic storytelling, that all this is going to have a purpose, okay, to achieve our strategic objective, okay? Especially, again, it could, in this situation, could be under pressure to prove something. Well, we all do have to prove something. And if Siamanda were to pitch to a potential investor or partner or donor next week, she would be under pressure to prove that her organization is deserving of such an investment, such a donation, such a partnership, and all that, right? Okay, and they're going to say, hey, we're not just going to throw our money around anywhere. We're only going to do it with those who are most deserving. So we have to present this most persuasively. And as I always say, that the key to the most persuasive, impactful form of communications is that it's driven by concrete, meaning specific, credible, meaning believable, verifiable, meaning can be proven, and then presenting it transparently, okay? Typically through a hyperlink, okay, to our evidence, that sort of thing, okay? So, and any questions about that? All right, now we're warmed up, okay, in terms of we're thinking strategically here, okay? And well, let's just see. I reordered these a bit today. So just a reminder of the key points overall, right? That this is everything we're talking about yesterday and today is a form of strategic communications. All right. We're becoming sharper with how we communicate. Who, what, why, how, you see that? Also remembering our target audience are not sheep-like. They're not going to have low standards, low expectations for what we say. They're going to demand that we prove what we say, that we back it up with some form of proof, evidence, that sort of thing. And this second sentence is really very important. From all my years of experience in journalism and communications, I've learned that there are only two ways, really, to impact a smart but skeptical audience that is also open-minded. Okay, a closed-minded audience, unfortunately, we have to write them off. Nothing can penetrate a closed mind, all right? But if they're smart, skeptical, but still open-minded, okay, now it's up to us to make our lawyerly arguments, okay, with the concrete credible evidence can touch the mind of a skeptic. And as I explained yesterday, but we'll also reinforce today, then the humanizing content to spotlight our shared humanity can also touch the heart of a skeptic, an open-minded skeptic, okay, to make them go, "Aw, okay, now you're persuading me," okay? You're persuading me with the evidence and with the humanizing, okay? That's the 1-2 punch, I say, of strategic communications. And then the principle, show me, don't just tell me, okay? Whatever you say, back it up. And the need for empathy, okay? That this is a skill we always need to force ourselves to think through. What about let's consider my audience. And then, of course, what I've been trying to do yesterday and we'll do today is to remove the mystery of how to do all of this, okay? Any questions about that? Yes, yesterday I also talked about, okay, the need to connect the dots between simple stories, okay, about our beneficiaries, those who are benefiting from our work, benefiting from our programs, our initiatives, our overall efforts, and actually then connecting the dots. And we'll talk more about that, connecting the dots to open a window onto all that we're doing on our programs, initiatives, our efforts. Okay. So actually let's dive into that more right now. We got the 6 forms of content. Okay. See, Amanda, we'll get back to this one soon to talk about yours. Okay. So here are a few more skills and strategies. Okay. That I try to do this with all my, certainly with my journalism and my content creation. Okay. The idea of opening a window. Okay. That any sort of, even if I go out into the street, I was just out on the streets with my daughter this morning shopping. Okay. And if I see a homeless person, okay, one homeless person, okay, or in Beijing, I remember telling my journalism students in Beijing, I'd say, look out the window. You see the old Chinese woman with the straw broom sweeping the streets, okay? You can write a story about her, or I can write about one homeless person on the street. But actually, you can frame it in such a way that that woman from the Chinese provinces can open a window onto hundreds of millions of migrant workers from around the country who have flocked from the countryside where there are very few jobs into the city in hopes of making money. Or this one homeless person can open a window onto American society today, the challenges economically, societally. One person, okay, can open a window symbolically. That's what we're going to talk about with Siamanda has 300 women working for her workshop. Okay. Well, guess what? Not only can one of those women open a window onto all your efforts with Beberavi, right? Okay. See, Amanda, right? But actually, one of those women could open a window onto hundreds of millions of African women who are marginalized in some way, that they are far removed from the economic centers. They are remote. They're digitally disconnected, okay, not part of the modern world. They don't have the skills, that sort of thing. So one woman can open a window onto millions of African women, okay? And we'll talk about how to do that, okay? But with that diamond structure, I'm going to share with you my diamond storytelling structure, okay? How to recognize the symbolism that one person represents, to support it with some concrete evidence. Okay. I'm talking about right now. I might as well. Sorry, I don't mean to be discombobulated, but I get a little excited here. Okay. So this is the diamond story structure that I'll be sharing with you. Okay. I call it the diamond for obvious reasons, for the shape of it. Okay. That the idea of opening with what I call a curtain raiser, like we're in the movie theater. This is the visual I always give my journalism students. Okay, we're sitting in a mall, okay, in an air-conditioned mall. The lights go down, okay, and the director of that movie wants us to forget the fact that we are in an air-conditioned mall, okay, in a movie theater and all that. The movie director wants to suck us into the action right away. So a curtain raiser is we're in the movie theater, a curtain goes up or the curtain parts, and right away we see someone on screen. We see some action right away because the director wants us to escape into the story. So right away we have our popcorn and all, and we see that, oh, it's nighttime, it's snowing. I see a car with headlights. Who's in the car? Where are they going and why? So right away, the director wants to suck us into the action, okay? And I'm going to explain how to produce a curtain raiser. So right away, there's a bit of drama to the way we open our stories, okay? Especially nowadays when there's so much competition for our attention, so much competition for our eyeballs every day. All of us got on our phones today, and there's so many headlines, this and that. So we have to work hard, intellectually speaking, to say, hey, read this. That's why also photos are so important, especially a humanizing photo. Ooh, like for example, Siamanda may have a story of Cecilia, right? Or you may have your photo, okay? It's like, ooh, and we see the eyes. The eyes are the window onto the soul. Who is this person and why is something being written about her? Okay, that will trigger a little bit of curiosity, hopefully, right? And then there's the headline to grab the attention. Okay, we need some sort of catchy, alluring headline that also delivers some value. Why should I click on that story and spend even a couple minutes reading it? We got to give them a reason, okay? But just to let you know, so then the story structure I have is so a curtain raiser to pull them in. Actually, by the way, I'll share with you right here. The curtain raiser, I have a 3-step. I have a actually 4-step approach to the curtain raiser, okay? This is what I always teach, is that right away on screen or in our text, we want to show someone, okay? And the reason is immediately we want to humanize and personalize our story, okay? Because human storytelling is something that has resonated with humanity for millennia, okay? It's perhaps our oldest tradition is oral storytelling. So we show someone, we're telling a story about a person right away. We're communicating this is about someone. So we show someone right away. 2, we show them doing something, okay? So that right away there's some movement, there's drama, there's action. Even if it's about ourselves, we're showing ourselves doing something, okay? Again, we're working hard to attract someone, so let's show movement, drama, action. And then the 3rd step is very important, okay? We don't just show this person doing any sort of action or movement or drama. It should be relevant. It should be connected to what the story is actually about, the content is actually about. So that's why, actually, the trick about all this, the trick is not to start when you're writing. Do not start with the first sentence. Naturally, we're like, okay, in the beginning, okay? And actually, the first step should be, whoa. Let me think through what exactly, let me remind myself what my core message is. What is the big picture, the real reason I'm writing this content? Why this content will matter, why my audience will find this minimally interesting, but even important, okay? And once again remind myself and hammer out that core message and that big picture of what this content is about, then we go to the top and say, now let me find the most relevant way connected to that core message, the most relevant way to open that story, okay? And just as a quick example with Siamanda, okay? And I'll be happy to hear from you, right? But let's say I want to write my origin story. I want to, and what's my core message here? Okay. I want them to know of my inspiration, motivation, my passion for this, my commitment, even as a businesswoman, my competence, okay? How I've built a sturdy structure, okay? I want these core messages to be in there. Okay, that's in the big picture, okay? of who I am and who we are, what we are, right? So how to open, okay? And the curtain goes up, and I think, for example, see, Amanda, it could be that very moment with your daughter, your older daughter, your first child in your arms, and you return to your hometown, okay? The curtain goes up. So there I was, right? Back in my hometown for the first time in X number of years, now with my daughter, okay? So now we're visualizing this, okay? Like I want us to write as if it's a little movie. Okay, so then we can visualize the drama of someone returning home after a number of years, right? And your eyes open up like, wow, look at the hardship. I'd almost forgotten how hard the life is for women like that, or the revelation that you had. We'll talk about the revelation. That could have been me. If I never left here, that could have been me living the struggling the way they are, right? And then your further revelation. But you see what I mean? The curtain goes up. We see someone, see Amanda. We see her doing something, the return home, and the surprise of what she sees, right? And it's relevant. Why? Because now we want to see her take action. The drama of I want to do something. I feel compelled to do something, to give back, okay? To give women a similar opportunity that I had somehow. What do you guys think? You see what I mean? Anyone? Anyone? And I should say the fourth step, by the way, journalistically, Flora. Then when you're describing someone else, it's one thing if we're describing ourselves, okay? But if, for example, Amanda, let's say we're telling a story of Cecilia, then I would say the fourth step is then a quote, a deep, meaningful quote from them, from their heart, from their mind. Now we want to give voice to the voiceless. Let's give them a voice. We've described, again, the drama, that opening scene, and why we're showing them living that way, right? And now we want to hear them from the heart say something about, right? It could be, if it weren't for working in this workshop, I would be out in the fields right now, breaking my back in the blazing heat and earning pennies. Okay, and my kids would be going to bed hungry. Just off the top of my head, okay, right? Something about something that's meaningful, that's accurate, from the heart, from the mind, that sort of thing. Okay, but in this situation, if you're writing yourself, okay, about yourself as the main character, curtain goes up, show yourself doing something, some meaningful, something, some movement, and what you're doing is relevant to the big story, then I would say the fourth step would be your own deep, meaningful insight. So it's your voice. You see what I mean? Okay, going back to, you see, I have the curtain raiser, the three-step curtain raiser, then the deep, meaningful quote, okay, right? And then the big picture, okay? So let's say what Siamanda could be, and that's why I founded Boom, 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 Boom to train Boom, 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 okay, right? That in Kenya, where there are X number of thousands or millions struggling in a similar way, or across Africa, X number of millions of rural African women struggling this way. So bigger picture, right? Okay, for example. Or if you're profiling Cecilia, right? Her deep, meaningful quote, right? Talking about the value of now I have she could say, now I live with greater dignity. I have my head held high. I can wear clothes, without that aren't tattered, that are new and nice looking, or whatever it may be, because I've heard lots of stories, having lived there and worked with African groups and all that. Okay. But then you see the connected dots. That's the key. This isn't just a simple story about yourself or about Cecilia. Now we say, and Cecilia is not the only one. Cecilia is one of 300 whom Bebe Ravi has trained. Okay, right? Or like I said yesterday about Tech Her Africa, right? That queen is not the only one. She's one of 4,000. And now you're signaling to the reader, oh, it's not just a simple feature about Cecilia or Queen. No, it's actually opening a window. It's about all the women being trained or benefiting from this or that, right? I'm sorry that Preet isn't here with us, right? But then it could be she's one of the 25 who are now producing these hemp clothing products, clothes, and all that, who are now benefiting from this the training and better work conditions, living conditions, et cetera, et cetera. So you connect the dots. You see what I mean? So we have a line connecting the dots, then we explain the big picture, okay? And the way I teach this journalistically, by the way, if you look at step number 5, I lay out the big picture, right? And Siamanda, for example, I'd encourage Siamanda to find me some, let's say, World Bank reports talking about rural African women and their condition, right? And what I mean by big picture quotes, and then in one sentence, if you say, in fact, this challenge is not only in Kenya, but across much of sub-Saharan Africa, okay, across much of the continent, according to the 2024 World Bank report, hyperlink, okay, X number of millions of women are living in this marginalized, are stuck in this cycle of poverty, okay. And then what I mean by the big picture quotes is that then if it's me as a journalist, let's say I'm interviewing someone from the World Bank, then I would ask them a question about the big picture, a quote. So a nice, serious, credible quote from an expert, because I hope I'm not going too fast, but the small picture about Cecilia and her quote is one, with all due respect, she sees her life, okay? And so we quote her describing her life and what's her environs, her surroundings. But the big picture quote would be someone who can take a step back and see the big picture, okay? That what you're doing, Siamanda, is not just social impact, but ultimately somehow aiming to break the cycle of poverty. So then someone, and you can quote directly, in this case, you're not interviewing, but we could quote directly from the World Bank reports. We summarize the findings, the number, we put the hyperlink, right? And then maybe we take the one most powerful sentence from their conclusions, okay? Which is, and it could be, Siamanda, it could be more than that these women need help or handouts. No, these women need to be armed with skills. They need trainings and education and skills, right? We don't just, something to the effect, don't just give them fish, but teach them how to fish, right? And so it could be about the need for vocational skills or training for women across Africa. Once the most powerful quote. And so that would be the big picture quotes. You see what I mean? Okay. And I've been thinking about that. And just for Flora and Brita to know, it's because I also know, and for any other viewers watching, that it's also because, working with Siamanda as her global communications advisor, I understand not all the details, but I have some grasp that it's not just, hey, we're aiming for social impact, but even to also explain the social impact is aiming at what is the broader challenge you're aiming for, okay? Or Brita, let's say with conscious fashion, hey, there's Preet. Welcome. Good morning. Thank you for joining us, okay?
Sorry,
Now,
I'm late.
it's okay. It's okay. You can watch and rewatch the video, okay?
Yeah.
But with I'm talking about the story structure, the writing structure, okay? And so with the conscious fashion, okay, you would even want, let's say, even with your own origin story, Brita, okay, when you're describing that moment, that aha moment, that the light bulb went off overhead, right? then you could also have a line, when we're talking about the big picture, you can talk about the broader challenge of what conscious fashion is aimed at. Okay. In a billion-dollar industry with X percentage of waste or exploitation of resources, according to, and you find the most credible name you can find as to having produced credible research, right? Hyperlink, right? According to XYZ organization and their 2024 report, hyperlink, right? That X percentage of blah, blah, blah is being wasted, right? And then, and however, more and more consumers are demanding change, are demanding that more of these brands are aware of these and taking steps to reduce. And then you have another hyperlink to opinion, to consumer preferences and opinions, right? So now you have like an airtight argument, but then you're also laying out the context, even the necessary context of, and that's why I founded this academy, because there's a need to educate people about conscious fashion. You see what I mean? So it's not just even your own story of inspiration. It's not just, oh, let me tell the story of how and why I founded the academy, but there was a broader challenge that you're looking to attack or approach, right? So that is absolutely, worth, but even necessary to identify. That's the big picture, right? And Preet, for you too, the broader issue, why hemp? If you're talking about within the industry, within the field, there's more and more pressure or more demand to find sustainable materials, right? But then you have a hyperlink according to such and such organization that, too much is wasted on non-recyclable, blah, blah, blah. Okay, right? Again, I'm not an expert in fashion, right? But you see what I mean? The idea of opening up and really hammering home to make our content that much more serious. Okay. And it's also good for our own brand. Like, wow, I like that's very thoughtful. That's very important, not just interesting, but important that they are trying in their own way, each of you in your own way are trying to attack a certain societal challenge. Okay. There's a big picture. Okay. So I don't want you guys to be too narrowly focused on me, how and why I did what I did, but what the bigger issues. And any questions there? Please let me know, because you see, I'm also addressing this. I'm approaching this as a foreign correspondent, as an international journalist. Okay. If I were to pitch any of you, okay, and each of you, believe it or not, now I'm getting to know each of you better. Okay. You see that I'm actually fleshing out story ideas that could potentially be in the New York Times, Washington Post, and others, okay? That each of you is addressing big societal issues that have been written about. It's a question of framing it, and this is another of my tiles, how to broaden your story, how to deepen your story to make it more serious, also to add value for the reader, for the consumer of your content, even for them. Oh, now I understand why exactly you're doing what you're doing. Okay. Okay. Any questions about that? See,
No
Amanda.
question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Rita.
I was gonna say no questions, but I love the idea of including the hyperlinks. Something I hadn't thought of putting in my own origin story,
Right.
but it really backs up, and proves like you're trying to prove your impact, but pulling those into your story, I think is great. And I hadn't thought of doing that before.
That's right. And you see that's where it goes into my diamond structure. Then we broaden it a bit, and there's real value to, even as I laid it out to you. I'm talking about an extra 1 or 2 paragraphs of meat, of red meat. Okay. That's really like, hey, it's also going to impress the audience. Wow, she or her organization is taking this very seriously. They've done their research, their market research. They've thought through not just what they're doing, but why they're doing what they're doing. Okay. So it's only conveying positive messages about us and our organization when we include that, right? So then that's how you broaden it. And I love the idea of not just a dry gray text, but then you have a quote, and we can all quote. Then whatever report, we find the sexiest one or maybe two sentences, right? And so then we have that. Okay, so now that we've opened it up, and then the transition to the past. Okay, if it's an individual, let's say Cecilia, okay, and Preet, I don't know if you heard, but Cecilia would be one of the 300 women whom Siamanda's social enterprise has trained. Okay, Cecilia's a real woman, right? So then, if we're telling her impact story, okay, then once we open up to the training and the skills we've armed her with, and why it's important to do that for millions of African women, according to the World Bank and others, blah blah blah, right? And then it could be a one sentence transition to the past, okay? Which is one reason why Bebe Ravi reached out to women like Cecilia, right? So there she was 7 years ago, okay, living in her village, working in her fields when she heard about Bebe Ravi. Okay, so you see how it's like a little subtle transition back to Cecilia, okay? Or let's say, Siamanda, you're writing your origin story. You have the big picture, right? So then the transition to the past is like, so that's also what inspired me to get involved. I knew that it wasn't just helping women in my community, but helping women like the women that I knew there were many more women like her across Kenya, or many more women like this across Kenya and all that. Okay. So then it goes back to, so that's why my first step was to do X, and then I did Y, then I did Z. So that's what I mean about the transition to the past. Okay. And then the way I describe it is, usually it's easier when I'm in a classroom, because then I have a whiteboard or a chalkboard and I can draw my diagrams and all that. Okay. But picture the bottom half of the diamond. You see the transition to the past, the deep past, the more recent past, and the present. Okay. Now we incorporate the chronology. Okay. That's why we go back to, where was it? This is where we slide in the Darwinian storytelling. Okay. Once we've laid this out, then now, and we have all the relevant landmarks and milestones, and we explained, then I did this, comma, because, and this led to this result or that impact. But then we needed to do that in the year blank, 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 which brought about this change and this important improvement, blah, blah. So now we have this content, and now we can take that and flow that into the second half of our diamond. Okay, the deep past. Again, where exactly does your story begin, right? So actually, with Siamanda's story, let's say, if we open at the top with that moment the light bulb went off, you're holding your older daughter, Ciolette, and you see what's happening. I got to do something. I want to do something. But now the return to the deep past is let's say the first step that you took to then do something about it. So then I returned to New York, and my first step was this, comma, because, and you're explaining your steps, all the key steps. Okay. And the why. You see with the evolution, right? How does your story, how does your situation change or evolve over time? Why exactly does it change? Now you're telling us it's a combination of you and your social enterprise, you and Bebe Ravi together, leading up to the present. Okay. And here, by the way, one thing for the others to know is that working with Siamanda now, we're talking with a team, of photo and video team too, about telling Siamanda's story visually on video. Okay. But telling it in two parts, because hers is a bi-continental story. it's about what's going on in Kenya, but you built it here in New York, right, Siamanda? So then the idea, so then I'm sorry, I don't want to speak for you, but so then the idea is you see, you have the narrative arc. So then working with Siamanda, we're going to say with the photographer, with the videographer, I'll be the interviewer. Like, let's retrace your steps, the key locales, the key places you went, the key partners. And she told us, for example, this was the first place that I was able to show our clothing. Okay. And potentially then we could interview that key partner. Okay. Then it becomes a partner story. Why exactly did you decide to join forces to partner with Siamanda? What was it about her and her vision? Okay. Again, that one piece of content, the partner story, as to how and why was Siamanda able to earn your trust, to lower that wall of suspicion, if not skepticism, and build that bridge of trust that then you were willing to give money, to invest, to partner, to agree to allow her to display her clothes, okay, in your store. That was just one example, okay? I just want you guys to be able to visualize what we're talking about, right? And then back to the origin story. So now we have these key moments leading back to the present, to where you are today. And then you finish up and why you are where you are today. And then Siamanda or Brita, both of you write your origin stories, or Preet, if you decide to do that as well. And then where you go in the future, as I often say, looking at your crystal ball. Okay. I'm not saying this is a blood oath that you must go in this direction, but share what's on your mind and why. Okay. And you might say to me, well, Michael, why include that? Okay. Because again, we should justify every sentence, every paragraph. Okay. And the reason is because, again, if you're looking for an investor, a partner, a donor, it's like, what's your plan? And let's see how competent a plan it is, how realistic a plan it is. Okay. And do I, by now, I've read all the way, I've consumed that content. I'm on board. You've gained my buy-in. I like you. Okay. I want to support you, but where do you go from here? And then also the subtle message of, and here's how you can help. Okay. From here, we plan to do X because, and Y because, and Z because. Okay. And we don't have to give the hard sell. And you, dear investor or donor, you can support us by doing X, Y, Z. It can be more subtle than that. Okay. Or you can give after they've watched that video or read that content, they may say, how can I get involved? Or you can sell them on, we would be happy to have your support as we continue to broaden and deepen here. So you can see broaden and deepen our efforts. Okay. Because hopefully by then you've won them over. Okay. And you've reduced the risk, not just lowered the wall of skepticism, built a bridge of trust, but even from their perspective, then reduce the risk of should I or shouldn't I support her. Okay. What do you think? You see how it works? Poor Michael needs a bit of water here to lubricate the pipes. Okay. Any questions from there?
Nope.
Really? Just stunned silence? Is that what's happening here? Hold on.
Ready to dive in.
Okay. Okay. By the way, one thing I forgot to mention also, and this is really very important, and I promise to share just a few more skills and strategies. The idea of movement in a story, okay? That as I write at the top, I used to have editors who would shout at me, who would say, okay, this is an interesting story, but why should we publish this now? Why today? Okay. So for each of you also to give a sense of urgency that when it comes to movement in a story, in a situation, there are really only three possibilities. If you're talking about the need for conscious fashion or hemp-driven or alternate materials or social impact in Africa, right? There are only really three possibilities. The situation is either getting better, improving, comma, because why? Something is getting worse, comma, because why? Okay. Or something is stagnating. Okay. And just a quick example of stagnating is I remember when I lived in Lesotho in Southern Africa, they would say, oh, the HIV rate here is 23%. I said, well, what was it last year? What was it 5 years ago? They said 23%. I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. How could it remain 23% every year? And they said, because not enough is being done. Little to nothing is being done. I was like, well, that's a story. Okay, little to nothing's being done to make a dent in Lesotho's HIV rates. So that became a story. Okay. So then the question is for you, and I'm not saying think like a journalist, okay, but certainly in terms of the storytelling and certain and I didn't even mention this term, but this is also solutions storytelling. Okay. You also want to show people, give people a feeling, some hope. There's so much helplessness and hopelessness out there that to also inject if things are getting better. For example, Preet, if it's like, yes, growing awareness is leading to more and more fashion brands embracing sustainable materials. And then hopefully you have a hyperlink to prove that. Okay, according to this leading fashion industry watchdog or monitor or whatever, boom, boom, boom. You got the evidence there, right? But there's movement, okay? Or the alternative, more and more waste. Waste is getting worse and worse according to blank, blank, blank. Okay? Whatever it is, okay? So movement and trends with evidence to prove that, okay? Search. I talked about connected dots, search for symbolism. By the way, just to be clear, and I mentioned this yesterday, but this is very challenging in terms of our critical thinking skills to identify the symbolism. What does someone symbolize? What do you symbolize? Okay, what do each of us symbolize? Okay, and just a quick example. When I was living in Beijing, when I was teaching journalism in Beijing, okay, I would tell my journalism students, just as an example, what do I symbolize? Am I unique? Okay, meaning, and you see the title here, are you unique or part of a broader pattern or trend? Similarly with Cecilia, okay, how to broaden one person's symbolism, right? And I would say to my Chinese journalism students, am I unique? Well, yes, Michael, you're one of a kind, blah, 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 okay? No, am I the only American living in China? Well, no, you're not. Oh, you can get the statistics to broaden that. Okay. Am I the only Westerner living in China? No, you're one of how many? X number of tens of thousands, according to. Okay. Am I the only one teaching? Am I the only foreigner, Westerner, teaching at a Chinese university? No, you're not. Okay, then if that's the story, it could be, Michael, one of X number of thousands of foreigners teaching in China, comma, okay, right? So, it could be one of X number of foreigners teaching journalism in China if it's about growing journalism education, Western journalism education in China. You see, it depends. I said also, am I here by myself? No, I'm here having followed my kids and my ex-wife. So am I the only American with a family here? No, there are X number of Western families in China if the issue is about Westerners living in China. You see what I mean? So then in many different ways to recognize Michael's symbolism, okay? And so I want you to do that as well, because then that enhances the value. Like I said, one of 300, okay? One of 4,000 being trained for Preet one day, one of 25 women whom we've trained and now provided a nice, stable, decent income with safe work conditions, okay? That sort of thing, right? So as I say here, everyone's special and unique. right? But how truly unique are they? Truly one of a kind? Because if someone is truly one of a kind, then that's part of the story. What makes them unique, but also identifying their commonalities. Okay. But especially, are they more of a microcosm or metaphor? In what way do they open a window? Can you connect the dots, et cetera, et cetera? Okay. This is part of our storytelling too. And then this is one more skill that's really important. Okay. That I want to share with you. That's we're all of us are now tackling a broader issue, right? As we've discussed. And it's one thing for us to say, well, here's what I'm doing, here's what we're doing, right? But if we want to really show ourselves to be thought leaders, that we have a finger on the pulse of the industry itself, okay? Then we could do a bit more research while home in our pajamas, okay? And to figure out what else is being done out there to promote conscious fashion, okay? Or to fight against unconscious fashion, okay? What else, if anything, is being done to encourage other sustainable materials, treats, okay? Right? Because okay, you could say, that's going to take more work. Yeah, but again, this piece will be on your website for several years. It's a nice foundational piece. It will show you to be a serious thinker, a serious player, right? Who knows her industry. Okay. And so it can only reflect well upon any of you to show what, if anything, is being done, what others are doing. Okay. And it could be, by the way, Siamanda, I mean, I know you're busy, right? But then you would say, so we came up with this suggestion, this solution for social enterprise, right? Well, why a social enterprise? Why is social enterprise a good solution, right? And it would be excellent for you or for us working together to find, and it could be World Bank, it could be UN Women, it could be whatever, someone who's produced a report as to why social enterprise specifically is a win-win. Incentivize the founder that they can earn profits, but also with a social component, right? Identifying, targeting marginalized communities, right? Providing them with decent employment and decent wages to create a win-win. So I'm sure someone has written about singing the praises of we need more social enterprises in the world. Okay. So then to have that and to prove that also proves your competence, which is we chose a wise path. We didn't just choose this randomly. Okay. We thought through why exactly we're doing what we're doing. Okay. Why we believe social enterprises work. Okay. Whew. Okay. Our lawyerly argument, why humanize, we talked about go to the front lines, broaden, deepen your story. Is it relevant? Okay. and a reminder of the one core message. Okay. You know what? This is more about the storytelling, about how to identify relevant research. You know, all right, maybe this is worth just a couple minutes, okay? You heard, I'm just brainstorming right now for you guys but for you on your own. Michael's not always going to be available to you, right? But to think through how do I come up with relevant, not just any kind of research, but relevant research. Again, I had to do this as a journalist. So you see where the X is in the circle? Once again, if you have a nice, clear focus as to what I want, what content I want to create, and why I'm doing this, that's at the heart of it, okay? And then the question marks are identifying, well, what sort of research would be relevant to that core message, to that core issue I'm addressing. Okay. So as you see at the top, how to identify relevant research, only those articles or reports, facts, details that are clearly connected, even necessary to tell the story we want to tell. Okay. On the left-hand side, you see our topic is now known at the heart, right? But on the perimeter, identify the most relevant research. Okay. And I have a filter. You say, Michael, how to identify what's the most relevant? Okay. Then here you see in italics, I sit at the bottom, I say, my topic must include this research, this piece of research, because why, right? I need to talk about maybe a number. How many other Kenyan women are in this situation? How many other African women? Because I want to show that I am truly, I, Siamanda Chega, am on the front lines of social enterprise in Africa, okay? That what I'm doing is symbolic as well, okay? And then a second filter, our viewers or our readers must learn this information. This is good for you, Preet, right? Because you said, I want to show how the sausage is made. I want them to consume this information, right? So our viewers must learn this information to more clearly follow our show or our content. Because why exactly? For you to justify. I want them to know this about the hemp that we're using and how and why we're using it. Because why? Okay. And I do this the same way, in terms of interviewing. Who's a relevant source? Whom, if you want to tell a broader story, again, Siamanda and our team in New York. All right, so whom should we interview? Okay. And we said maybe we interview 3 or 5. And she'll say, but there are 10. I can think of 10 people. Whoa, whoa, whoa. We want to narrow down who's most relevant. So again, our focus goes into heart, the center of the circle, and the question marks, who is most necessary to interview and why? If I'm going to tell the story of Bebe Ravi and how I built Bebe Ravi from New York, we must include a voice of this person. And for example, Siamanda told me about a key donor to her orphanage. We must interview Sandra, who gave us that very important first donation and continues to donate to us. Good. Let's ask her why she believes in Siamanda and her orphanage so much that she donated so consistently and from the beginning. Okay, so you're thinking through then not just any voices, but which voices and why, right? Siamanda, also, when we go to Kenya, you're going to say, well, you have 300 women. We're not going to interview all 300. Let's interview 3 or 5. Which are the most compelling? Okay, which ones really symbolize most powerfully, okay, the 300. So we're going to think through who exactly, because we want to be efficient and effective with our time and our efforts, that sort of thing, okay? Next one, relevant questions. Okay, like Preet was saying, yes, we like to interview the women, but then again, your story, your core message goes at the heart, and it's like, oh, what questions? I mean, I could ask 1,000 questions. No. Which questions are most relevant and that you'd want to hear them talk about, because it's most relevant? That if the core was, I wanted to provide them with safe working conditions and a decent salary for themselves and for their families, right? Okay. So let me ask them about this and that, not about other things, their hobbies, how they spend their free time. Maybe, but really to justify the questions, especially if you're going to be doing it remotely. Hey, you're asking someone else, ask them these 5 essential questions. Okay. And then lastly, the relevant writing, and we're going to get to that. How to pick and choose which details we must include, which ones are less relevant, less necessary. That's where we become better and better writers as well, which is to pick and choose only the most necessary. Any questions about that? Woof. And you guys thought this stuff was easy. Not so easy. Okay. So how about this? Getting back to, since we started with Siamanda, okay? May we experiment on you, Siamanda?
Sure.
Excellent. What sort of content do you have so far? What were you able to produce yesterday or this morning? Any kind of content for us to work with, please?
Well, I thought about the question of the challenges that I am tackling. But as we were going through that, I realized that I do need, for example, I came up with why my work is important. Some of the reasons, economic disparity for women there. Women working in the villages, they don't have as many opportunities. So we are bringing in sustainable income by creating sustainable jobs. And I was thinking, but if I say over 90% of women in sub-Saharan Africa, are earning less than $2, how do I prove that, right? Or I also had, like over 70% of women don't have access to financial stability, and how do I prove that? So I don't have the market research for that. I
Okay.
feel like I would go back and think a little bit harder on how to address the serious facts that I'm
So
highlighting.
good, good. I'm glad you're asking this as I often tell students and trainees, we are not the experts, and that's okay. That's why we quote directly from the experts. Okay. So what was the less than $2 a day figure?
Yeah, so I don't know where I got this from, but I know like how much the lady who worked in the farm is paid, or what the ladies have told me when they come to work for us. So kind of I believe it. Many of the women artisans earn less than $2 a day, making it impossible to break the cycle of poverty. So actually, $2 is like ample. I think it's generous. I think they actually earn like 100 shillings a day, which is like about $1 when they work in the farms. And but I need to have a quote, like a world, like
Yeah.
a peer-reviewed research to quote and say according to the world something.
Yes. Now
Yeah.
first, first, let's even justify why include that sort of statistic. Why would we want to include that fact and figure in our content? Why is it necessary? And again, this is our filter. So for us to practice saying to ourselves, our reader, my target audience, must learn this fact or hear this piece of evidence, comma, because why? Okay. And I'm not saying that we don't need it, right? But even for us to then, if we can think through why must they learn what the daily earning wage on average is for Kenyan women? Why are we doing that?
Because then we would want to, we're trying, we're justifying why our social impact is making a difference, is very important, because even though, the finding is that the woman makes less than $1 a day, it's still very unstable. She's not promised a job every day. So it's whenever she goes out. There's also lots of exploitation and non-existent benefits, so like what we give them. So when I'm trying to prove that my social impact, my social enterprise has a great impact, I think I need to show that if we're not giving them work, Bebe Rave is not in the village, what's happening to the woman who doesn't have a job with me?
Good.
So I think that's why it's relevant. I don't know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you completely. Okay. But this is why, even for the others to benefit, right? If we're thinking through our own messaging, right? This is how it begins, right? I want to show that we're bringing true benefit and having social impact with these women. Okay. And we can't just use our words. It's not enough to say we're doing wonderful things. Just not to say that you are doing that, right? But the idea of how we're making that truly effective, impactful argument, right? Which is that, right, as you say, most women or women on average are earning X number amount of shillings equal to X number of dollars, comma, according to, right? We quote an expert, okay? And the only reason we're saying that is because then we want to show that Bebe Ravi is paying them double that or more, because we're making a strong argument. Oh, the reader then. That sounds good. So you are treating them better, right? Or Preet, if you're talking about your workshop and if safe versus unsafe working conditions is an issue, right? That, oh, on average, women face these kinds, or Indians face these sort of occupational hazards, let's say, okay, in the workplace. And why are we saying that? Because your workshop, let's say, ensures safety. We have safety protocols and criteria and all that. Again, the core messaging is we want, it's not just about the money, it's also about the conditions. It's about marketable skills that even if they leave us, then they can apply these skills elsewhere, raising themselves up from where they were before, right? So the idea of, yes, the before and after value is why we would also get some nice evidence-driven content, right? So and this goes back to even the fork in the road. The fork in the road was describing individuals, but now we're talking about even a community. Before we entered this community or impacted this community, here's what their situation was like, X, Y, Z. And again, we're only identifying the most relevant details relevant to us. We're not describing all of what their entire life was like, okay? If we're talking about earnings and work conditions and how it benefits their children, okay, we're thinking through, right? Because again, we're thinking back to our initial steps was we gather around a boardroom or a conference room table, and we're saying, what would our impact look like? That we want our beneficiaries to be working safely, earning decently, and able to build a brighter future for their kids. Let's say those are three things, okay? Then that's three pieces of concrete, credible evidence we need to prove that before we knocked on their door, here's what it was like for them, okay? Not according to us, because we're not an expert. We're humble, we're modest. We say, no, we're going to quote the experts. And it could be the Ministry of blank, blank, blank of India, okay? It doesn't have to be an independent or, more multinational, right? See, Amanda, if you say, according to the Ministry of Welfare, Kenya's Ministry of Welfare, let's say, okay? Or Ministry of Health, if we're talking about health conditions, or Ministry of Youth and Education, let's say, okay? So it could be a government source. I wouldn't quote exclusively a government source. It will make it look impressive if we quote the World Bank or something like that, some major credible brand name organization as well, okay? So yeah, then it's the fork in the road, right? Because then, and I've actually never described it this way before, so I'm quite excited to hit upon this, right? So now it's the fork in the road for a community. And again, you're showing the contrast. If we hadn't knocked on the door, if we had not intervened, their lives would probably continue to be X, Y, Z. Okay, of course, you're going to humanize and prove it with individual stories, but now you're still describing the big picture, right? Instead, we knocked on the door because we wanted to attack those three major challenges, okay? And these women then responded to our knock on the door, and then step by step, we were able to not only intervene, but then to step by step deliver some impact, okay? And now here's where they are, okay? Right. So that's why I'm happy to hear that you've begun with the research, okay? But relevant. That's why it's all. That's why I use the word relevant so often. It's not just any research, but what would be most necessary? Okay. Any questions about that? Flora,
No
you see what
question.
I mean? Oh,
Questions?
I'm sorry. Who had a
I was
question?
gonna say I had a comment, not a question.
Go ahead.
Just the fact when she says they're only earning $1 a day, that's also the empathy part that you mentioned so many times yesterday. Like right away as a reader, if I saw that, I'd feel that empathy and be interested to learn more because right away she called out how dire the situation was. So it kind of pulls you in to the story because you're grabbing that empathy of the reader at the
But
same time.
you're absolutely right. But you know what it needs also journalistically, but just in terms of the storytelling, okay? If we're going to do that, okay, we need at least one sentence to explain that if you're only earning the equivalent of 100 shillings, Kenyan shillings, or $1 a day, then also to describe, which can only earn you or can only allow you XYZ sort of lifestyle or standard of living. Okay. Which means it could mean, which means maybe 3 meals of maize meal, of corn, or, which means not enough money to buy meat. Okay. It may mean not enough money to buy medication. It may mean that you're living with candles or campfire versus electricity. Okay, like, so we need a bit of colorful context to take the reader there. What does $1 a day in Kenya mean? Because Brita may be thinking $1 a day, and she's thinking from an American perspective. That's crazy, right? But there may be some Kenyans who are like, wow, you earn 100 shilling. I only earn 50 shilling. 100. I would love to earn $1 a day. Okay, you see what I mean? So you need a bit of context to explain what does that mean. Okay.
Right, right. There's also like a bigger picture of the fact that that woman will reinvest 90% of that dollar to the family. So I think, just understanding, okay, so she'll probably not, if she just has a dollar, she might choose not to eat so her children can eat. Or,
Good.
how does that $1 equate? Because she has to, 90% of it will go back to her kids or her community.
Yes.
I think that would be a good one to follow up to, like, okay, it's a dollar, but then 90% of that. So if she earns more, $5, then not only will she be able to buy bread, but now we're talking about going, paying school fees for her children, eating healthy meals. So then, they have nutritious. So it's good, there's health aspect of it, there's education
Absolutely.
aspect, there's investment. So yeah. So it would be nice for me to be able to correlate, to show that it's how important, like how much benefits it is for a woman to earn more than $1 a
That's
day.
right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Show, don't tell. Okay.
Right.
No, I love this that we're talking about this, because then even more, then it's like, so then if she's going to devote 90 shillings of that 100 toward the kids, which would go toward X, Y, Z, just a little bit more color. Okay. Even what the daily life would be, which would go toward X, Y, Z, but which means she cannot afford shoes for the child. That means that the child would be in such a that should be too embarrassed to send the child, can't afford the school fees, or can't afford a school uniform, can't afford a school bag, books, right? Okay. And so now that's the before, right? And now, because we're able to pay them X number of shillings on average, right? Now she's able to spend enough money on not just XYZ, but ABC, right? And then you're quoting her. And it could be, the first thing I did when I earned my salary was I bought shoes for my children. Okay. Or I bought them their first school bags. Okay. It could be something nice and really, emotive, emotional. That's like, how did you spend once you started earning a decent wage, right? Can you explain to me how step by step it raised the standard of living? Right? It could be, and now we have a refrigerator inside, or now I'm earning enough that we built a toilet inside the home. We don't have just a squat toilet outside. Okay. It could be little things, but to paint a picture of what does social impact mean in the Kenyan context, or in the Indian context, or Chinese context. Okay. To really bring it to life. Because then, as Brita was saying, right? Then the target audience is like, oh, well, then maybe I could make a difference. So you mean if I donate $10 a day, like that's what the more effective communicators are able to do when they're on TV and they say, for $1 a day, you can make a difference in blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, can you paint a picture? How would $1 a day make a difference? Okay, let me explain. Right. So you need to take the reader there, take the viewer there. Okay. So here's what I'd like to do, okay, to deliver value to you guys as well, okay, which is, hold on. So, see, Amanda, here's what I'm going to do for you guys, since I only have a few of you and we have a little bit more time, although Brita, you should tell me when we should take a break, okay? Here's how about we work with Siamanda's first, and then we can take a break, okay? For me, then, okay, this is us going back to school. Time for an outline. Oh no, I hate writing outlines. You know what? We need to get over that, okay? Because we need a nice, clear focus to our vision, to our writing, okay? A beginning, a middle, and an end. But the way I want us to write this outline is following my diamond, okay? That yes, we could open with the curtain raiser, okay? But remember where I said to begin? Flora, where did I say we should begin? We don't start typing the first sentence. What's the first step we take? Is checking our notes. Correct. With the big picture, with the core message. Well done, Flora. Okay, here, hold on. So let's remind ourselves that this is, oh, by the way, can you see my document? You see what I'm writing? Okay, all right. I want to do this for each of you, okay? Siamanda, of the 6 pieces of content, this is Siamanda's story, right? Okay. Your story of inspiration, right? So what is it? What is it that you want to convey in this piece of content? What is the 1 or 2 or 3 things that you want your target audience? Who's your target audience for this? Let's review.
My target audience is by the investor, the donor, the buyer.
Good. Hold on. Okay. So for potential investors, right? Buyers, uh, who else did you say? I'm
Donor, donors and partners and collaborators.
Okay, good. Okay, right. Okay, this is on your website. This is going to be, either our story or our founder's story, right? Okay, right. So then we're thinking through who are they, right? Now, why? We're going to think through what we want to, what would they be looking for? These are potential investors, buyers, partners. What would they be looking for from you as a partner? We're thinking strategically through this, okay? What are they looking for from you, do you think?
Well, I'm a social enterprise, so I think they'll be looking at partnering or investing with having an impact of some sort, I think.
So looking to invest, to partner with an organization that can, I don't know, almost guarantee. Okay, they're looking to reduce their risk too. Okay, maybe maybe if you were starting an organization, let's say like Preet, maybe you're looking for organizations or donors or investors that are open to investing seed money. So they're looking for higher risk companies or organizations, maybe, right? But that can almost guarantee results, impact, okay? Because they're already able to prove it, let's say, okay? Is that correct, Siamanda?
Yes. Yeah.
Roughly, okay? Right? So now we're thinking through, okay. So then within, so I should say do it like this, okay? And I will send this to her, but I want you guys to also benefit from, okay, this is how I can structure my own outline, okay? Now you're thinking through, not just the target audience, but why them? What are they looking for and why, right? And then how about your what is it that you want them to learn about you?
That are making a difference.
delivering, okay, on promises, okay,
Mhm.
right? You're pledging to do something, right? So, which
Yeah,
means must include evidence, right?
right. Well, yeah, we're trying to ideally um, break the cycle of poverty or intergenerational poverty.
Ah, well, that's a good core message. Good. Okay, which is of poverty, you said, right?
The cycle of poverty, even sometimes I think of it as intergenerational, breaking the cycle of intergenerational poverty because when our mothers, when these women are empowered, when they send their children to school, they give them a better opportunity in life. So they will not be as poor as them, they won't have to suffer with their parents as their mothers did. So I feel like there's some intergenerational sort of, I guess it means the same thing, breaking the cycle of poverty intergenerationally. Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
but I like the
Yeah,
way you're describing it because it's also important to humanize. It's not just broadly, oh, break the cycle of violence. No, you're talking about for mothers, especially you're talking about so many single mothers out there doing it on their own in Africa with children to care for, right? And so again, highlighting the shared humanity, what mother wouldn't want the best for their children or the brightest possible future for their
right.
children,
Like
right?
better education, better health. So
Ah,
it
okay. See, what else? Better work prospects.
better work prospects. And in terms of health, we're talking about physical and mental as well for
Ah,
both the mother and children. So
right on. Okay. Now, now this is lofty stuff. I mean, when you think about even our challenge when we come to Kenya with you, just for the rest of you guys to know that I'll be working with, again, a photographer, videographer, and all that. We're going to be acting as detectives. Imagine what she's saying. Okay. Like, how can we prove that over the years, Siamanda and Bebe Ravi and the orphanage have delivered on providing better education, better physical mental health, better work prospects, right? Um, Even raising uh, standard of living, right? I mean, that's another one. Let's put a standard of living, quality of life, right? Even you're talking about better physical, mental health of women and children
right.
and their kids, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I remember that the shame some women felt that their kids were wearing tattered clothes, being teased by neighbors or being by classmates and wanting to keep the kids at home even to avoid the teasing. Okay, that sort of thing. The shame of that. Okay. So now, but in this mess, in this, oh, by the way, I should point out. See, now imagine, I want you guys to visualize. Imagine on Siamanda's website, now it's about, it's our founder or our founder's mission, our founder's vision, okay? And it's her story of inspiration. Then when you say breaking the cycle of poverty, better education, so you have the hyperlinks to the need for such things, okay, right? But then also, once you actually create the impact stories, the evidence to prove that, then you'll take that hyperlink and put that in your story of inspiration, because then you'll let them know that within the story, that step by step, we have achieved, we have delivered on our results. You see what I mean? So, see, Amanda, we don't want, since you've been at it for a number of years, we don't want this piece just to be aspirational. We're aiming to, we're hoping to, okay, we're striving to do XYZ. But that your message too will also be that we've already achieved some, we've already delivered, okay? And what we're doing now is aiming to broaden and deepen our impact. Is that right? See, Amanda?
Yes. Yes.
So even this as a narrative, okay? And this is farther down once we get, your inspiration for how and why, right? The narrative would be, we've already achieved, oops, X, Y, Z, okay? And then we hyperlink to the impact page, okay? To the evidence, okay? Right? We've already achieved, right? And then from here, we're now aiming to broaden and deepen our impact. So that altogether, I guess I can put it all up in one line. Okay. You see, I think that's an effective narrative. And especially, again, core message, what do we want them to remember? Our target audience, our potential investors, donors, partners, and we want them to learn. What's one thing we want them to remember about Beberavi is that they've already achieved impact, and now they're working on the next stage, which is to broaden and deepen their impact, or to solidify, to cement their impact, okay? To make it sustainable, okay? To use the magic word of sustainability, to make their impact sustainable, right? So that's a good core message, all right? But I would say also in this piece, because this is more for the organization, all right? This is your story. So I think you want to convey about your inspiration, motivation, passion, commitment, but even I think it's important your competence, okay? That then to show the moves you made would also reveal, ooh, those were smart moves. And it's okay, I think, even to show maybe to share some mistakes made, but what you learned from it, okay? So to share your lessons learned from the past, your best practices moving forward, your wisdom overall, okay? You see what I mean? Okay? Because again, why, Michael? Because we want to show that you are with a finger on the pulse of the industry. You now have enough experience, bumps and bruises along the way, that now moving forward, now you've got it honed, you've got it, you've polished, you've sharpened your operation. We know what we need to do, how to do it, why to do it, how to do it. So join us will be the subtle message that we are deserving of your partnership. Okay. So that's a lot right now. Okay. I forgot to mention that here is where you then insert evidence. Okay. World Bank reports explaining, or actually documenting X, Y, Z. Okay. On let's say $1 per day. Okay. Right. Hyperlink to the reports plus a quote, direct quote, like with quotation marks, plus direct quote of the, pardon my, well, in journalism we say the sexiest quote, the sexiest line from that report. Okay. The money shots. Okay. Right. That the most powerful thing, one or two sentences. Okay. But then also maybe from the, let's say, from the World Health Organization. Okay, let's say if you're talking about how conditions affect women and children. Okay. Right. Since you brought up, hey, their physical and mental health. Okay. So it could be WHO, it could be UNICEF. You see what I mean? Okay. And it could be about Kenya specific. Actually, you could say, show a bit of evidence from of Kenya specifically, as well as from Africa broadly. Okay. So this is also connecting the dots. Okay. Let's say, okay, especially again, to remind ourselves, why do this? Because Siamanda has another objective, which is I want to present myself as being on the front lines of social enterprise in Africa, not just in Kenya, but even in Africa. Okay. Same thing with Brita. I want to position myself as being on the front lines of conscious fashion education. Right. So let's show the big picture, but also that I have a finger on the pulse of the big picture. Okay. Not just in America, but even around the world. Okay. Okay. So it's important for you guys to, with the outline, just to get out all your points, jot it all down. Don't allow it to be swimming in your mind. Okay. Like, no, yeah, I also need to mention this. No, write it all out. Okay. So you don't forget and need to insert it later. Okay. So then let's say, since this is, and by the way, please let me know if you have any questions. This is a friendly group. Okay. Just please interrupt.
Question, Michael.
Yes, please go ahead.
Well, my question is, how many words is appropriate for the big picture part? Because we have so many parts.
Yes.
How's the structure?
That's a great question. You know what? I mean, we have to be realistic. Like how much would we read about someone else? Okay? If someone is a compelling personality, a compelling character, ooh, they're interesting. Okay? Now, this is also a website. We can go long, but you know what? We're going to write this in two ways. Okay. It could be 500 to 800 words, maybe 1,000 words. But the way I'm going to show you with the diamond structure, especially going back to here, it's a great question that you asked. Can you see the, oh, I didn't show you. Back to the diamond structure. I'm glad you brought this up. Okay. Because okay, here's what I want you to visualize as well. In the old days, when I was a young reporter and when people actually read newspapers, my editors would say, hey, Michael, good news. Your article is going to go on the front page. Woohoo! Pat on the back. All right. That's exciting. Okay. But Michael, we're not going to publish your entire article on the front page. We're going to publish the first 100 or 200 words in a box. Okay. Headline, your byline, and then the first 1 to 200 words. And then it's going to say, for more, see page 7. Okay. And we're going to want the reader to jump to page 7. Why? Because there are also advertisements on page 7 and all that. Okay. But they said, Michael, your first 1 to 200 words must be compelling enough and to deliver enough value to make them curious enough to want to jump with you. Okay. That's how I learned that the first 200 words or so must be really packed with value, okay? But now we're in the modern age, okay? No more newspapers, very rare, okay? Now we're talking about websites and we're talking about phones, okay? And so there have been studies done as to if I click on an article and I see the first screen full of content, that's now the front page of an article. That there have been studies done of what percentage of readers will actually press the little scroll button to scroll down to the second screen or third screen. You lose a significant percentage of the readers between that. You say, please, dear reader, press the scroll button. I promise there's value farther down. No, people have too much to read, too much to consume, right? People have short attention spans. And that's why if our first few sentences are boring or confusing, people are going to bounce. They're out. Okay. But that's also why on our laptops, on our phones, we got to make sure that the first 1 to 200 words are compelling enough. That's why I say we want to see someone right away. We want to see them doing something. We want to explain what they're doing, why they're doing, and then we want to connect dots to the big picture, even within the first 200 words. Okay, so that's why we're going to write Siamanda's story. We want to show within the first 200 words the light bulb going off, okay? And then how you decided to take action. And that'll be on the first screen. And then it'll be up to the viewer, the reader to be like, on the one hand, they will have learned something from your article from the first 200 words. You're going to describe that, oh, and it's not just these women, but this is a widespread challenge of women living like this, that I used to be one of them. Or if I never left Kenya, I would be one of them. Okay. They will learn something from your story. And then that's the beauty of this approach, okay, of what I learned. Then if we lose a reader, then at least they'll say, thank you, dear writer, because from the first 1 to 200 words, I actually learned something I didn't know before. I learned about the world around me, about conscious fashion, about alternate materials in clothing. I learned about social impact in Africa. But I need to bounce. Okay, I got other things to do. But thank you. I'll return to you because I like the way you wrote something. That's for content creators. How to keep people coming back is to deliver value. But Siamanda, if you write your first, and to answer Flora's question, if you write your story in a compelling enough way, then people will click because they want to learn more. Okay, they'll press the scroll button. Now, getting back to Flora's question, yes, the big picture. The way I usually describe it, the curtain raiser could be 3 or 4 sentences. It could be 50 to 75, even 100 of your finest writing to tell a story. Okay. Then, and then a quote, 20 words, or maybe your deepest insights, right? Which could be, I knew I had to do something about it. Those could be Siamanda's words. Okay. I knew I had to give these women somehow, I'll provide them with the opportunity I didn't have, training, education, skills. Okay. Or I had the wherewithal to make a difference. And so I decided I would, to give something back to them. Okay. And then, so then it could be, so that's why I founded. That's why I created. That's why I did this and that. So then you have that within the first 100 or so words. Okay. And to answer Flora's question, then it could be, and it could be, and this issue is needed, or this service, this social enterprise is needed because across Africa, there are X number of millions facing boom, boom, boom. Okay. So then that big picture could be another 2 paragraphs, which could be another 50 to 100 words. Okay. So ideally, if it were a news article in a newspaper or magazine, they would say, hey, you should be able to tell a mini story, a fairly complete mini story within the first 200 words. But then you insert more context and background for the remainder if you're able to hook the reader and pull them in, that then they're so drawn to that they want to learn more about the person, Siamanda, or about the issue itself, whatever you're writing about. Okay? Does that answer your question, Flora?
Yes.
You see what I mean? Okay.
Yeah.
So this is, it's just to clarify what I'm talking about. I'm not saying this is the only way to write. Okay. I'm saying that this is one way to tell the story. Okay. And what I tell my students or trainees, I say, you're welcome to tell your story any way you want, as long as you believe readers will read or viewers will follow. Okay. For me, I believe this approach works. I've tried to address it even scientifically, justifying why open this way, why these many words, why we need a connecting the dots and transition, all that. If someone has a better way, please show me, but only if you can prove that it works and readers want to read. So now back to Siamanda, and this is your doc. Can you see the document? Okay. So what do you think of that approach, by the way, Siamanda? I don't want to write your story for you, but how would you want, now that we have, and really to answer Flora's question a bit more, if I count all these words, you know, if I count all this, that's 150 words right there. I'm not saying include all of this right now. Now we're brainstorming. We're still in the brainstorming phase as to what exactly we want to say and why, right? You see that this is a work in progress, okay? But at least we're gradually sharpening our focus as to what we want to include in our big picture, right? But there is enough here, especially with this, that what are we truly trying to show, that I think, well, let me ask you, Amanda. How would you like to open your story, your origin story?
Um, I think I will start. I like the idea of starting with my visit back to Kenya and the realization of um, the need that there was something I could do about what was lacking. I mean,
Good,
my own small way, I couldn't make a difference. So I
good.
think I would.
You know why I like that, by the way, for the others, because see, Amanda told me that story, and that I'm her test audience, and that anecdote stuck with me. Okay, that then I could visualize. Okay, see, Amanda, as I learned, had a successful modeling career. Okay, as a high fashion model. Okay, that enabled her to be successful enough to found her own operation, right? And so, but I was moved when I then heard her story. So there I was with my infant daughter in my arms, returning. How would you tell the story, Siamanda? Describe that first visit. How many years ago was it?
I'm going to say about 20 years ago, about
Oh, yeah.
19 years ago, I came back to Kenya, and I was going to introduce my daughter to my family, and I realized, as a new mother, I realized how women were suffering and how many kids do not have anyone to provide for them. There were
Wait,
lots of
wait,
offers.
wait. Let's slow down. This is good. Okay. So there I was. Okay. It could be something like this. So there I was returning to my Kenyan homeland. How many years had it been since you've been home?
4 years before.
4 years. Return to my Kenyan home for the first time, let's say, in 4 years, okay? But this time with my infant daughter to introduce her to my family. That's a good first sentence, okay? Now, next sentence, okay, which is describe for us what you saw. This was in Nakuru. Was this in Lamet, your hometown? Where was this exactly that you saw the way
Yeah,
we
this
living?
is in Lynette.
In Lanet, okay, in Lamet. So describe for us again. None of us has been there. We are all your test audience, right? So we visualize now your infant daughter, right? And what did you see? How can you summarize for us, but in a colorful way, what you saw there? Building up to the epiphany, your revelation.
Well, there were a lot of women. It was the AIDS, there was a big, it was HIV AIDS epidemic, an epidemic was had ravished the village, and there were so many women who were suffering and who had lost their husbands, and they were single, all alone, and needed to support their families.
Okay,
So
hold on. Okay, so we had the time element about 20 years ago. Okay, um, and and let me just ask one thing. What was your emotion when you saw that? Were you shocked? Were you stunned?
I was, I
You
was devastated. I was devastated
in
at
what
the
way? In what way
uh,
did you be devastated?
because here I was a young mom, um, knowing the the love as a mother, how much I cared about my child, and how bad it would feel not to be able to feed them, take care of themselves or myself. So it sort of, as the kids now talk these days, they're like it hit different. I used to go before, but it was different. And now I was a mother, and it was a whole different experience.
Okay, I was immediately. Oh, okay, maybe we're not immediately. I was devastated by what I saw. HIV had ravaged my hometown,
Village. Yeah,
my village.
just say my hometown.
Okay, my hometown and the entire region, right? Right? Is that right? I mean, it wasn't just your hometown,
It
right?
was then.
It was what? I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, right. Leaving behind countless, maybe. And again, this is just rough, obviously you'll put this in your own words if you like, what have you, right? Leaving behind countless HIV widows and orphans.
Yeah.
Okay, right? Now, I if I'd never left here, I might have I might have been one of them. Okay. Short, punchy. Instead, I forget. My family sent me to. How do we want to say without getting into too much detail about how you had arrived in America, and we need to highlight. Do you want to mention that part?
I guess when I start writing, I can figure out what I want to add onto it. But yeah,
And instead, I've been fortunate
a
enough.
lot.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I've
because
been
I feel like it's a lot if we were to go through this whole thing, it would be like, but
instead.
it's a
Mhm.
lot, right?
Right. I'm trying to be precise, right? Instead, I've been fortunate enough to have had a modeling, I guess we could say successful modeling career in New York, right? Instead, I So when I saw how how much less fortunate these my how much less fortunate women from now I'm trying to think of the wording. How much how women from my community, how much less fortunate these women. I want to make it sound like you're connected. These women were. I knew I had to do something. In fact, I now had the resources to make a difference. Okay, right? And it could be that then right from it, that that was the genesis for me to found Bebe Ravi. Okay, right? A social enterprise. That. What do you think?
It's perfect.
Perfect. Oh,
I mean, no. I think it's really great. I do look forward to writing it out.
okay. You see what I mean? Now
Yeah,
just imagine. See, Amanda, next time, Britta invites you to a panel discussion, okay? You could start that way, right? You write it in a way that it's genuine, it's your story, but you can dive into the drama. There I was about 20 years ago, returning to my hometown, to my homeland to introduce my daughter. And you can tell that story as your presentation,
fantastic.
right? Okay, because now we're going to get into, right, an enterprise that's now that so now you explain, right? But now connect the dots, okay? While we have trained 300 women, the problem is much vaster, is much larger, okay? Then the facts, the evidence, right? The World Bank stuff, okay? You see what I mean? So that now you're opening it up, that you're admitting basically that what we're doing is a little drop in the bucket, but you're making a difference in the lives of these 300, okay? Then then you describe this, I'll work with you to pick and choose which details. Now the 300 or the part 3, excuse me. And now the transition to the past, okay, which is now that you've laid out the scope. Uh-huh. So it could be uh uh once I left Kenya. Once I left Kenya and returned to New York, my first step was to do. Okay. So now we've laid out the big picture. We've opened up the diamond, and now we're going to return to narrowing the diamond. Okay. You see what
Hey,
I'm?
Michael,
Yes.
would it be a good time to take a break? We're on the 2 hour mark and we have an
Sure.
hour left for
Sure.
our session
Sure.
today.
Sure.
You
Sure.
guys
Sure.
want to take a,
Let's take a
yeah,
10-minute break. Okay. Sometimes it's good to have one person as the lab rat. Okay. In this case, see Amanda to experiment on her. Okay.
yeah. This is
So
really helpful to see it mapped out like this.
yeah. Okay. So we'll be back at 1:15.
Sounds good.
Okay, good. Thank you. Continue. So what do you think so far, Flora? Mhm.
I think it's great, especially you lead us to write. Yeah, and I also
Yeah,
find I don't need to write very difficult language to express something.
that's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, it can be easy. Yeah. Sometimes when I think about all those professional terms or very difficult structures of English, yeah, it always holds me back.
good. I'm glad
Yeah.
to hear that because really, as I said, I want to demystify the process, but also to simplify the process. And I know
Yeah.
working with young people that sometimes they feel pressure. I was once a reporter who wanted to use my SAT words, my big, long words to impress people that no, no, really, I'm smart. Look at the smart words I'm using. Versus
Yeah.
just explain it clearly and simply. And I know you have an excellent vocabulary. Again, I've seen your writing too. Just just describe it conversationally. Okay. Like if I were
Yeah.
to say, so tell me about, Chinese consumer habits among you and your friends kind of thing, right? Well, we
Mm,
like to do this. We like to do, boop, 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 boop. But anyway, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Just to finish up with Siamanda, okay? I
yeah.
mean, I'll send you that outline. Hello, welcome back, Preet. Just we're going to move on just for the sake of time. But now with Siamanda, the rest of it really now is the chronological, okay? That then I did this because, then I did that because, okay, and we'll work out just purely like, yeah, what was the order, the most significant events, that sort of thing, okay? And by the way, I did forget, we could work on the intro a bit more where it could be, a little bit more color. What you saw devastated me. I saw more than just HIV widows and kids, how they were living. Okay, you could have one more sentence. They were living this way. There, many kids were at home, right? Women were devastated economically, losing a breadwinner, their husbands. So many kids were at home that couldn't afford school fees, right? Because you're thinking of relevant details, right? That sort of thing. Okay. Anyway. So we'll finish that up. But I'm also just imagining, and I want you guys to imagine too. Imagine Siamanda next time. Not only will she have a story to tell, but I think you'll feel that much more confident, having thought it through, highlighted all the key points, and okay, I'm ready to share my story, my strategic story, not just my story, right? So how about Preet? Can we work on you next, please? I'm so curious to hear what sort of content, what you're able to write down. What do you think?
Yeah, we can do that.
Excellent, excellent. Okay. Hold on, let me return to the that Word document. Well, first of all,
I'll,
let's yeah, Brita, you want to say
I was
something?
just gonna say I'll chime in super quick. I have to leave at the top of the hour, so
2 o'clock.
um, if you guys need to keep going or you need to reach out to Michael further afterwards, I think that's okay, right, Michael?
Yes,
And
we're gonna
so
arrange it
I'll
one-on-one.
kind of okay, so I'll kind of watch the clock and maybe give you a 5-minute warning
Yeah,
before I have to take off, and then you guys can
yes.
go from there. So
You can give me the hook to pull me off the
go
stage.
for it.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Preet, let's remind ourselves too, okay? As to and I want us to do this every single time. I don't mind repeating myself, right? But what sort of content do you want to create and why? Why that content? Why which audience for it would be consuming it ideally? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess the content would be as a general um for conscious consumers that are unaware of the impacts of the materials that are being used in what they're purchasing, which would be like the general thing. And I guess like benefits of using hemp and then the, I guess, consequences of using like polyester, for example.
I see. I see. So on the one hand, it sounds like your target audience would be consumers who, I mean, let's say they would come across your website. Do you think that they would be already conscious consumers, or are you trying to open minds, change attitudes to make people at least think about the products they purchase and how they're made?
Yeah, I guess I think that like most people are conscious consumers because they're buying something for a certain purpose. Um, but like the um the target audience that I think my brand caters most to is like I would be more than happy if an undergrad student was interested in shopping at Tulua, but I think they're not at the point that like most people that are in university are not at the point where they are living a lifestyle that matches what Tulua is catering to. So maybe they're not like conscious consumers in like a I rather do slow fashion than fast fashion way, but they might be at least curious enough to um learn more about it.
And how about cost? Are hemp made items cheaper or more expensive or what?
Yeah, cost, I think that is also part of the reason why um hemp tends to be an expensive fabric and not um I guess in the what's the word? Not in the range of what like an undergrad student would be spending.
Yes, yes.
Um, so I mean, they can be I guess more than audience, I think I'm talking about the people that are buying the product. So I guess content consumption wise, it could be anyone that is wanting to learn.
Yes.
Um, Whereas so target audience could be that versus and like someone that eventually would want to be like, how can I use this knowledge to like make better choices in life?
Uh-huh.
Versus like the actual buyer of my product might be different.
See, this is important because it relates to what sort of research, what sort of relevant research you would include. Because also, I'm just curious because again, I'm no expert, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're making a case to younger consumers and not even university students, but let's say younger generation,
Yeah.
the emerging generation of consumers now
Yeah.
developing shopping habits, let's say, right? And you're trying to
Mm-hmm.
make a case for, well, this honestly, okay, it's conscious fashion, it's a slower fashion, but it is going to cost you a little bit more. So if you also have to make the case for why it's worth it for them to spend a bit more money, is it also, let's say, durable, more durable than some of the fast fashion items?
Yeah. Way
So
more durable and long
more,
lasting.
okay, right? So then that might also be part of the relevant research, right? If you're
Mm-hmm.
thinking through which argument am I making and why that argument, right? And that's what I mean about the circle. So
Mm-hmm.
then you put the heart of, hey, I want to make an argument for why not only is it better for the environment, but you as a consumer versus having fast fashion items that may fall apart more quickly. Yeah, it may satisfy your short-term need for something cheaper,
Yeah.
but this will last in your closet or your drawer longer, right? And so, but you can't just say that. You should prove that with some serious-minded looking evidence, right?
Yeah.
Part of the big picture argument, right? So that's why I'm
Mm-hmm.
fleshing this out. Now, also, I know you said I want to have this on my website and social media channels for consumers, right? But this could also be for potential partners and investors who say, why hemp?
Right.
Right? Okay. Why should
Yeah.
I invest in a company focused on hemp production? Right. So I think that
Mm-hmm.
this, you could still have, all right, this content has two separate audiences, maybe, right? But to combine, but the other thing, Preet, that I'm asking about the target audience, okay? And this is also something important to keep in mind. I often say, oh, my audience is smart, curious, skeptical, right? So it must have evidence. I often also will say non-experts, okay? So if
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about the average ordinary consumer and you say hemp this, hemp that, they may be like, so what exactly is hemp? Or how exactly does that work? How, are there hemp trees? What exactly? So then if you say, hey, you know what, I'm also going to have respect for the intellect of the audience. So there's a need for definitions or brief little descriptions. Hemp, comma, which is boom, 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 right? Or for Brita to not just say conscious fashion. And it's like, well, maybe they're non-experts. They're smart, curious, but maybe I need to say conscious fashion, comma, which is blah, 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 or which means blank, 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 right? Or for Siamanda to say a social enterprise, comma, which means, because like, what exactly is a social enterprise? Because I myself made the mistake early on when I first met you. I said, oh, you're NGO, you're nonprofit. You're like, no, 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 we are for profit. Oh, well, how does that work? Well, it combines the two. Ah, well, then for smart, curious, but non-expert audience, social enterprise, comma, which means boom, boom, boom. Oh, okay. So it's respect for the audience, not dumbing it down too much, not talking above them, but making, especially if you're going to be writing kind of technically about hemp, right? To still present it conversationally, but in a smart way that, okay, let me explain in a somewhat easy to consume way. Hey, here's what hemp is. Here's how it's produced. Here's why it's important. Here's what the alternative is. Here's what the more popular materials are today. Okay, comma, because, right? Most products are this, are that, because, right? To explain
Yeah.
again, not in too simplistic a way, but an educational way and still a persuasive way. Okay.
Mhm.
So this would be, just to clarify, so this would be, I'm just trying to visualize where on your website, under what category. Okay. So you would have like our story, right? Maybe that's your inspiration story behind the Talua shop, right? And maybe the second category on your website might be simply two words. Why hemp? What do you think, Preet?
Um, yeah, so I actually was thinking, because I already have an about the brand
Uh-huh.
section, and then that includes like a note from me as the founder. And
Mm-hmm.
then the brand and then the story of the brand is there. And then there is a fabric section. So I know you mentioned creating an our impact section.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I think this might be like a great way to either be an extension, like a hyperlink to this in the Our Fabrics part, because the Our Fabrics part already touches a little bit on what kind of fabrics we use. So that could take you
Well,
to the impact of hemp.
see, now this is an interesting question from a strategic communications perspective, right? If you say, hey, among our core messages, we want everyone to know that these images you see, these beautiful clothes that you see, are no ordinary clothes. Just like with Siamanda. You see these products, they're no ordinary clothes. It's also about who created the clothes, in what circumstance. And you want any visitor to know right away, okay, that there may be value to, instead of having about us brand our story and our fabrics, maybe it would be worth having, let's say, category up at the top that says why hemp, because we want everyone to know that this is a unique product made from hemp. Ooh, and why is that? Okay, because if you say, hey, that is our comparative advantage, that's our value added, we want to become known as the hemp makers, the hemp users kind of thing. Okay. It's up to, for you to sit around the conference room table with your team as to how to present that, because it's possible that right here, where it is right now, maybe it feels a little buried. If you're saying, hey, this is truly important for people to know about us, then you're asking the visitor to scroll, or does it say hemp somewhere else? I'm sorry.
Um, so on the homepage, we have a whole collection that is 100% hemp.
Uh-huh.
And
Here.
that is highlighted, yeah, in the homepage. But I think as a brand, hemp is not the only focus. I think the focus is to create natural fabrics
Oh.
as the focus. So it's not going to be like in a long-term way, I guess. If the identity is being built right now, it won't be a hemp brand. It
I
will
see.
be a natural fabrics brand.
I see. I see.
So I think fabric and the material in general, right? Like craftsmanship, how it's made, like to be durable, and what it's made with is what the brand is driven on.
See, now, may I just say, and of course, I could give you a rigorous critique of the
Mhm.
content already on the website, right? But if you look at me as a test audience or Siamanda Flora, that sort of thing, right? This is what I
Mhm.
mean that if I click on your website and I see the beautiful photo, right? Style that rises for the planet. Sounds nice. It's unclear what that means. Then you say
Mhm.
effortless fashion meets mindful living. Mindful is kind of a buzzword, but still not very clear. Okay.
Mhm.
But then you're saying, dear reader, please scroll farther down. Okay.
Mhm.
Eco cores. What do you mean? Eco cores. Timeless tops. But then you say 100% hemp. What I might, so you're already losing readers, I think, by saying, please scroll. Okay. But
Mhm.
right here, what I might do is, effortless fashion using all natural materials. Let's say if you really say no, that's, we want them to know right away that, oh, I like
Mhm.
that, all natural materials. Then you got to deliver that message up high. What do you think, Brita? I'm
Yeah.
curious what you think about that.
Um, yeah, I guess I see what you mean as like because the first tagline, I guess, is
Impression.
that
It's the
that
first
rises for
impression.
the planet.
It's the first
Um,
impression. Yeah.
yeah. So like the rises part is what the meaning of Dulua is. I think maybe the subheading of that can maybe be more catered to why it rises for the planet more than
Um,
what the fashion, I mean, what kind of like styling it is, because this is kind of talking about the styling of
yeah. Yeah.
the item.
See,
So it could just elaborate further.
that's really interesting, I think. And again, I don't want to go off on too much of a tangent here, right? But you have rises when now you're explaining, oh, Tulu is a Sanskrit word that means rising, right? So that's almost
Mhm.
like an insider sort of like, is that, I always use the term reader friendly or audience friendly? Is it accessible enough? It'd be great if you had maybe somewhere in here, Tulua and is the Sanskrit word for rising. Okay. Like it needs a little definition so we can just follow more comfortably, understanding. Oh, okay, so this is really a major driving force, behind your vision, that sort of thing. But yeah, I'd be curious to hear,
Yeah.
Brito, what do you think about and just in terms of branding and how to present it?
I love the idea of the definition of Tallua
Mhm.
because when you told me that in person, like right away, it excited me. So I like the idea of like Tallua means this, and that kind of grabs a person's attention, I think.
Mhm.
Um,
Even if you
looking
say
at it from,
Sanskrit, I'm sorry to interrupt. Even when you say
yeah,
Sanskrit, then it conveys cross-cultural, multicultural. Like, I like that.
yeah.
I like that. All right, take me out of the US for a moment or wherever people will be viewing this. Like, all right, that sounds interesting. Go ahead, keep going, Go ahead. Sorry, Britta.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that too because it automatically opens it up to more global feel and a more multicultural idea. And I start thinking of yoga and people in that kind of world. So yeah, I like that idea. And from a apparel person's point of view, like I get the effortless fashion meets mindful living, but if I was not in the apparel world, I might be a little more curious or questioning, well, what does that mean exactly? Um, so so yeah,
Anyway,
those are my
Yeah.
thoughts.
that's for a follow-up. Okay, so now
Yeah.
on to the actual
Can I
wrap.
say something?
Please go ahead.
Yeah, because Yeah, because from a consumer perspective, I
Mhm.
think maybe put fabrics in this page more, I mean better. Because I think this is good, but I I just it's a little deep for me. I don't know why. I don't know what this means. Effortless fashion meets mindful living. Maybe I'm curious about it and I'll, do some research, but I'm just a consumer. So the fabrics and the price are really are really mattering. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's like Preet said, maybe it depends on who exactly the target audience is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there you could also have a box, not just shop now, but even since you're hooking people, there could be a box to learn more of our vision. Click here, something like that, that where we
Mhm.
have the definition, that sort of thing. But time is a waste in here. No, not wasted. It's time is flying. And let me switch to the documents, okay? Sorry, definitely not wasting. This is all valuable time here. So so go ahead. Let me hear what did you write so far, Preets? What sort of
Um,
information did you bring to the table today?
so I well, I don't know where to start now. Um, I have
With core
been
mission, core message, and big picture. What with this piece of content? Sorry to interrupt. Then
yeah.
let's clarify. Right now, you talked about your target audience, right?
Mhm.
And what you and why they're your target audience that you want to explain really the real value of why hemp. Okay, so then
Right.
we have the outline here. Okay, of
Mhm.
so here we'd have a let's say a curtain raiser, right, but we also want to hammer out the big picture and the core messages. Okay,
Right.
right. So now what we're saying is what the big picture is. Let's say in a world, let's identify in a world where what sort of trends and movements are going on in terms of why people should be considering alternates or more eco-friendly materials.
Um, I guess in the world of where people are over consuming, um, and in a world where fast fashion is exploiting cheap labor.
Yeah. You see, me as a skeptical audience, I want hyperlinks to prove this stuff, right? Oh, really?
Hmm.
People are over consuming? Hyperlink, right? Fast fashion is explaining cheap labor? Hyperlink.
Yeah.
Okay. Right? Because you've got your finger on the pulse of the industry, right? So then you're laying this out, and your solution is
Um, I guess conscious consumption with uh conscious or maybe knowledgeable consumption. I don't know what the word is for to make sure that you're purchasing items that you need and are long lasting.
informed. How about that?
Yeah, informed. That's a good word.
Yes, right? Conscious, informed decisions
Hmm.
about the products, right? You purchase. Okay.
Hmm.
Not just considering the cheapest option,
Hmm.
right? But what?
A
Their
long lasting
okay, their
option.
impact on the environment, let's say, and B, their durability,
Durability.
right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, you see, this is big picture, right? And then
Mhm.
that's how we arrived at, let's say, hemp and other natural products. Okay? Such
Yeah.
as, and you could say such as X, Y, and Z. Let's say, okay?
Mhm.
Right? Now, what would be interesting, all right, that's I think that's a pretty effective core message, okay? Because let's think about who's reading it, okay? Again, we think about our target audience. They're reading it's like, oh, well, am I the kind of person who would want to be over consuming, harming the planet, exploiting cheap labor, right? So you're awakening them or reminding them that, hey, you should be conscious of the impact of your decisions, right? And
Yeah.
you're providing that evidence. This isn't
Mhm.
someone I don't know. This is, you're quoting some name organization, right? Here, and this is worth emphasizing, evidence, right? You see what I do here? Evidence quoting a credible organization
Mhm.
and their research, right?
Yeah.
Similar, doing the same thing here. You know, whatever, again, whatever you say, back it up with facts, with evidence, okay? So they know, hey, if Talua says something, we can trust them because they always they always back it up with facts, okay? So now,
Mhm.
anything else? Any other strong selling points? What
Um,
else must they know? Okay, how about the women you employ? Okay, what else
yeah,
must they
that
know about?
I don't know how to tie it in with the fabric
Uh-huh,
conversation, but for that I have the backwards supply chain breakdown of how much an item should cost if you are actually fairly paying the people that are making it.
uh-huh.
I found it, I have the source for where I got that information,
Okay,
like a t-shirt
uh-huh.
that is being made, if it's being sold for like $10 or $15, they break it down like transport cost, material cost, manufacturing cost, and then the cut that like the manufacturing unit takes all the way down to how much a worker would get paid.
Okay.
Um,
Here, how about this? How about this? How about
mhm,
this? Okay. Not only are these products longer lasting, better for the environment, okay,
mhm,
which, oh, by the way, we need evidence for both claims, okay,
right.
because longer lasting, you got to prove the durability and that
Mhm,
it's better for the environment, okay? But then
yeah.
going back to that other claim, but we at Tulua, right, also ensure that the women produce these products. And what did you want to do, what did you want to say? Do so in safe workplaces or
It's fair wages.
with, and treated with dignity, let's say, right? With fair wages, okay? That sort of thing,
Mhm,
right? I mean, you're hammering out like, hey, we can combine it. Now, this is almost like your mission statement combine, into storytelling, right? Now, curtain raiser. All right. So now we have a clear idea that from our core message, we want them to remember that we're talking about that. What do we, when they walk away the next day, the next week or month, what do we want them to remember about Talua? Is that we are using materials that are good for the environment, good for workers. Sure, they may be a little bit more expensive, but they're also durable. Okay. So you're getting value for that modest additional investment. Okay.
mhm,
So then how to open the content, how to open this piece of content. And you weren't here, just going back to the very quickly, because I hear Brita's clock ticking. Okay. Going back to this screen, you weren't here, but 3 steps. Let's show someone you could humanize this content. Okay. Show someone doing something. Okay. So to show someone, meaning you humanize, you personalize. Okay. Doing something. Let's show them doing something. Let's show some movement, some action, even some drama. Right. And then, but this should be connected to the big picture, which is, like you said, almost Tulua's mission statements. Okay. So, of course, you could open in a dry way, which could be, we at Tulua believe blah, 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 blah. Right. But maybe, well, let me ask you first. How would you like to open it? Did you have thoughts?
I mean, I think I would want to open it in like um like an empathetic way where it would talk about the consequences of what's going on in the world.
Mm,
Um,
mm,
because I think that's like at the core of the problem that Tulu was trying to solve.
mm.
So
That's
maybe
good.
starting, yeah, maybe starting off. I mean, this might be slightly off topic, but there's a piece of content for social media that I'm working on right now. And I
Yes.
don't know if you guys know of the trend that like all the young girls are talking about, which is the girl math
Girl
trend,
math.
which yeah, it's when it's just like a funny thing where, for example, like a girl will be like, oh, this thing that I bought cost $300, but if I wear it 300 times, then it only cost $1. Like that's girl math.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I'm using that trend to create like a comparison of fast fashion girl math versus slow fashion girl math and breaking down like, oh, $5 t-shirt wore it 5 times, it only cost me $1, which is just like the thought process that a fast fashion girl would have. And it ends there. Slow fashion girl would be including like this cost me $100, but I wore it like, whatever amount of times because it lasted me longer. And then also putting in like evidence of um, how the item was made. So like it used hemp, so it used less water than cotton, not even polyester. Or like I didn't use polyester, so I saved this many fossil fuels from
How about
being
this?
in the environment.
Good, good.
So
How
maybe
about this?
something like
Oh,
that is what I would want to start with.
okay. How about this? How about this, Preet? How about
Hmm.
this as a little literary storytelling trick? Okay. Which is, how about we open with, look, ideally, let's say you know some customers who made these decisions. Should I do this, which has these consequences, or pros and cons, or should I do this, which has these pros and cons? Instead, you could, I mean, it's ideal if you know someone in real life, but how about we create a scenario, okay? And again, to try to identify empathetically with the consumer who's reading this, okay? It could be,
Mhm.
imagine you need a shirt or a new dress, a new sweater, okay? Imagine you have X number of dollars in your pocket to do so, okay? Right? And then you lay out, you could purchase XYZ, which would, and then this is the bad case scenario. XYZ, where you could save money. You get, instead of spending 100, you spend 50, right? But it has this consequence, that repercussion, that sort of thing, right? And it may fall apart after X number of washings, right?
Mhm.
Or you spend more, okay, a bit more, but it's done this way, it's done that way, and it lasts longer in your drawer, in your closet. And then you could say, which would you choose? Okay.
Mhm.
And then you transition to the big picture. We at Talua do XYZ because. Okay. How about that?
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
I think
pretty
that makes
good.
sense. I like starting off with the consequences of what is already a problem and then transitioning to how Tulua is solving those problems.
I like that. I like that. Okay. I mean, we're just brainstorming here, just trying to think of what works. Okay.
Yeah.
Which open with the two contrasting consumers and their priorities. But I like if you were to, humanize it enough, right? Where you imagine a scenario. Oh. Okay. Imagine a scenario, need an outfit. Okay. Well, whatever. Got a big party, got a graduation, got a this, got a that, whatever it is. Okay. Right. You need something new, right? Right. And then you say consumer A does X, Y, Z, but with A, B, C consequences. Okay. Consumer B does A, B, C, X. I hope I'm not confusing with all this, but you get what I mean. You fill in blanks, okay?
I understand, yeah.
Right? But with X, Y, Z benefits, okay? But a bit more expensive. Because what you're talking about too, by the way, to be fair to the consumer, they may say, dear Tulua, I understand what you mean, but I'm still on the young side and I do have to consider cost. But thank you for raising awareness in my mind. Okay, that as soon as I have enough disposable income and as soon as I can prioritize these things, then I will follow your path. At least you awaken me to these things. Okay, so then maybe they share with friends, family. Hey, did you know that boom, boom, boom? I myself can't afford it, but one day, whatever it may be. Okay, but then you say, which would you choose or prefer? Okay, and then you say, we at Tulua, advocates that you choose the second path. Okay, let's say. Okay, because then you say, in a world where, now you're big picture. Okay, you see what I mean, guys? Okay, because then part three could be transition to the past. It could be that you summarize our vision. Our inspiration. And then you could hyperlink to our origin story, your story, right? Okay, so you don't need to get into all that, but you hyperlink to it, right? That, in fact, that's been our vision from the start. That's the transition to the past, okay? That we researched X, then Y, right? Then Z, right? Show your smart research and concern. That's we care, okay? Right? The message is we care and are serious about this commitment, right? These are subtle strategic messages, right? But explain non-scientifically why X is better than Y, okay? Support with hyperlinked evidence to prove your case. Okay? What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Can you see the vision?
Yeah.
What is
I think that works. It feels more seamless and more encompassing.
Yeah, it's a nice way to do it, I think. I'm glad we're brainstorming this because I think it humanizes it from the start, right? It lays out, like, hey, in life with shopping, you now have a choice. I like that
Mhm.
actually, that if you present it that way, right? You're presenting the reality of a consumer's choice today. Isn't that true, Brita?
Mhm. Yeah, I really it's really helpful to see you going through this with the different
Like
brands and
yeah, like to
yeah,
care or not to care.
yeah.
Right? You're basically saying, hey, it's up to you. Are you going to care about this or not? Okay.
Mhm.
And to care sometimes may cost a bit more money, but hopefully you can also highlight even the benefits. Let's say like durability, but also it's good, better for the planet, for people, for animals, that sort of thing. Right. Okay. I like the way that looks. I'm pretty satisfied with it. Okay. Any other comments as we wind down and hit our 2 o'clock deadline?
I
I
mean, for me, just seeing it mapped out in this framework is
yeah,
so helpful, and I'll apply that to any of my writing moving
good.
forward. So really
Well,
helpful. And
that's what I wanted to do was to demystify because of course I can get you guys to nod your head and say yeah yeah yeah, but in practice what does that look like? Okay, and I'm so glad that we at least had the two different pieces of content to show how it would look. We talked a bit about what an impact story would look like. Flora, if you don't mind, you and I in our one-on-one session, okay? Or we can even have a couple one-on-one sessions. Okay, we'll talk about your content. Okay? Is
Yeah. Okay.
that all right?
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. Because yesterday we did brainstorm after the others left what exactly you could do. And so I look forward to seeing what you produce. All right.
Mhm.
So
Preet and Flora, I'd love to connect more with you outside of this. And Preet, your
Yeah.
website is gorgeous, and
Thank you.
I'm very familiar with those fabrics, so I'm very excited about it, and it's beautiful work. So I'd love to just share your story more on my website. And same Flora too. I'd love to follow you and see how you do with your content writing and bringing this all together. And see, Amanda, I know you, so we'll be in touch and we'll probably see each other soon. So um, yeah, I have to sign off. You're welcome to stay on and ask more questions or continue the conversation, but this has been wonderful, Michael, and I know you're sharing the recording and all of that, so we can still access
well, if I
that
may,
for questions.
Brita, if I may just say to the viewers watching at home, I hope that in following some of these skills and strategies and outlines, that you'll try it for yourself. Okay, that you don't have to be a professional writer or storyteller, but these are skills that can be learned and sharpened over time. Okay, but I hope that we at least demystified and simplified the process for how to get started and try it for yourself. Okay, there's my contact information for anyone. Okay, it'll be in the videos, that sort of thing. Okay,
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
okay.
Thank you.
I can't access the drive that you sent, Britta. I don't know if that's like I have to send a request or anything like that.
Send a
Okay,
request. I'll
An
access.
error comes
yeah.
up.
Yeah, I when I emailed the one last night or this morning, I
Mhm.
included Michael on the email. So
Okay.
Michael can now
Oh,
get you in
okay.
the loop with
Okay.
everyone, and he can send directly because I'm copying and pasting, and so maybe something got
Right.
kind of glitched. So
Okay.
Okay.
yeah, so you'll have access to all that. But thank you so much. And yeah, if you're watching online, please reach out, and we like the feedback as well too. So
Tune
yeah,
in
good
for
luck
next
with everyone's journey.
workshops and contact us for one-on-one coaching as well. Okay.
All
Okay.
right,
Thank
cheers,
you all for your
everyone.
participation. This is
Thank
great.
you.
Thank
Enjoyed it.
you.
All right.
Yeah.
See you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.